Tonight, you might tell someone about a dream you had. They will probably laugh. They might change the subject. And you will probably never bring it up again. That is what happens to most dreams. But one boy did not let that happen. He told his dream anyway. And it nearly got him killed. This is not a story about sleep. It is a story about what happens when you say the thing everyone wishes you would keep quiet. You already know how families work. There is always one sibling who seems to get more attention, more praise, more of something the others cannot name but can absolutely feel. And you know what that feeling does to a house full of people who are supposed to love each other unconditionally. Joseph was that sibling. He was the 11th of 12 sons, but he was the first son of the wife his father loved most. And his father did not hide it. He gave Joseph a coat, richly ornamented, a coat none of the other brothers received. In a culture where clothing marked status, that coat was not a gift. It was an announcement. Psychologist Alfred Adler spent his career studying something he called birth order dynamics, the idea that a child's position in the family, and how they are treated relative to their siblings, shapes their entire personality. Adler found that favoritism does not just create jealousy. It creates identity. The favored child starts to believe the favoritism. The overlooked children start to organize their whole lives around resentment. Joseph's brothers were organizing. And then Joseph made it so much worse. He had a dream. In it, his brothers' bundles of wheat bowed down to his own bundle. He told them about it. Not privately. Out loud, to their faces. Why would he do that? Here's what is easy to miss. Joseph was young, maybe 17. And there is something psychologists now call the naivety of early confidence, first documented in modern form by researchers David Dunning and Justin Kruger. People with limited experience often cannot yet see how their words land on others. Joseph was not being cruel. He may not have understood that truth, spoken without tact, can feel like an attack. He had another dream. The sun, the moon, and 11 stars bowed to him this time. He told that one too. Even his father, who adored him, rebuked him for it. His brothers stopped speaking to him kindly. The text is blunt about it. They hated him. And hatred, once it takes root in a family, does not usually stay still. It looks for an opportunity. The opportunity came in a field, far from home, where no one was watching. His brothers saw him coming and decided this was the moment. Some wanted to kill him outright. One brother, Reuben, talked them down, convincing them to throw him into an empty pit instead, secretly planning to come back and rescue him later. But while Reuben was away, the brothers spotted a caravan of traders heading to Egypt. Another brother, Judah, suggested selling Joseph instead of leaving him to die in the pit. They sold their own brother for 20 pieces of silver. Then they dipped his coat in goat's blood and told their father a wild animal had killed him. Their father grieved for years, refusing to be comforted. He never knew the truth. This is where most stories about betrayal end. The victim disappears. The story moves on. But Joseph's story does something rare. It keeps the camera on him. In Egypt, he was sold as a slave to a man named Potiphar, an official in Pharaoh's court. And here's the part that gets overlooked. Joseph did not fall apart. He rose, again and again, inside systems designed to keep him powerless. He became the manager of Potiphar's entire household. Then Potiphar's wife falsely accused him, and he was thrown into prison for a crime he did not commit. And even there, in a cell with no clear future, he rose again, eventually managing the affairs of the other prisoners. There is a concept in modern psychology called post-traumatic growth, researched extensively by Richard Tedeschi and Lawrence Calhoun starting in the 1990s. Their studies found that some people do not just survive devastating experiences. They come out with a deeper sense of purpose, stronger relationships, and a clearer understanding of their own strength. Not because the trauma was good, but because of what the person builds afterward, deliberately, out of the wreckage. Joseph seems to have done exactly that, thousands of years before anyone had a name for it. Two of Pharaoh's officials had dreams while in prison with him. Joseph interpreted them accurately. Any dream meant restoration. The other meant execution. Both came true exactly as he said. 2 years later, Pharaoh himself had a disturbing dream that none of his advisors could explain. Someone remembered the prisoner who read dreams correctly. Joseph was brought before Pharaoh and interpreted the dream as a warning: 7 years of abundance, followed by 7 years of devastating famine. Pharaoh did something almost no ruler would do. He gave the interpretation, and the plan to survive it, to the very man he had just met, a foreign former slave with a prison record. He made Joseph second in command over all of Egypt. Here's the part that should stop you. The famine came, just as Joseph said. And it did not stay in Egypt. It reached Canaan, where Joseph's father and brothers were slowly starving. So the brothers traveled to Egypt to buy grain, the same brothers who had sold their sibling into slavery decades earlier. They stood in front of him. They did not recognize him. He recognized every one of them instantly. Think about what he was holding in that moment. Total power. Their food, their survival, their lives, all in his hands. This was not an abstract chance for revenge. This was the exact machinery of it, built and delivered to his doorstep. He did not use it. Instead, after testing them to see if they had changed, he broke down in front of them and told them who he was. And when they stood there in terror, certain he would finally do what they had done to him, he said something that upends the entire story. He told them not to be afraid. He told them that what they intended for harm, a higher purpose had turned into good, to save many lives. That is not forgiveness as forgetting. That is forgiveness as reframing, the ability to hold both truths at once: what happened to him was wrong, and what came from it mattered. Modern trauma researchers describe this exact cognitive move, meaning-making, as one of the strongest predictors of long-term psychological recovery. Joseph did not need his brothers to apologize adequately. He did not need the story rewritten so the betrayal never happened. He needed the outcome to mean something. And once it did, the resentment had nowhere left to live. He brought his whole family to Egypt. He provided for them through the remaining years of famine. The brothers who once sold him for silver spent the rest of their lives depending on his mercy and receiving it fully every time. Tonight, you might tell someone about a dream you had. Maybe they will laugh again. Maybe they will not understand what you see in yourself yet. But somewhere, someone is carrying a version of that same dismissed dream, the one that got them mocked, or excluded, or thrown into a pit they did not deserve. The story of Joseph is not proof that things work out. It is proof of something quieter and harder, that what people do to you does not get the final word on who you become.